Join me on a journey through the life of Judith Harrington, a 67-year-old widow whose world is turned upside down when her son and daughter-in-law win the lottery with a ticket she purchased. This story explores themes of family, betrayal, forgiveness, and the true meaning of wealth. Set against the backdrop of contemporary England, we'll witness how greed can tear families apart, but also how resilience and wisdom can mend broken bonds. This tale of reconciliation will resonate with anyone who has experienced family conflict or the bittersweet nature of forgiveness. Before we begin this incredible story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. My name is Judith Harrington, and at 67 years old, I thought I knew what to expect from life. My husband Terrence passed away 5 years ago, leaving me with our modest home in Dorchester, a small pension, and memories spanning 4 decades. The loss left a hollow in my chest that never quite filled, but I managed to find purpose in my garden, my volunteer work at the local library, and most importantly, in being a doting grandmother to my 2 grandchildren, Olivia and Marcus. My son, Nathaniel, and his wife, Victoria, lived just 20 minutes away in a semi-detached house they'd been struggling to pay off. Victoria had always been cordial but distant, the type of daughter-in-law who smiled politely at family gatherings while checking her watch. She worked in real estate and constantly complained about clients who couldn't afford the properties they wanted. Nathaniel had followed his father into accounting, but hadn't found the same success. There was always tension around money whenever we met. "Mum, could you watch the kids this weekend?" Nathaniel would often ask. "Victoria and I need to work on some financial planning." I never minded. Olivia, 10, and Marcus, 8, were bright sparks who filled my quiet house with laughter. We'd bake cookies, plant seedlings in the garden, or read stories curled up on the sofa. Those weekends were precious to me. It became a tradition for me to buy a lottery ticket each week. One for me, one for Nat, I'd tell Mr. Patel at the corner shop. I'd been doing it for years, a small ritual that connected me to Terrence, who had always dreamed of winning. "When we win the lottery, Jude," he'd say with a wink, "we'll buy that cottage in the Cotswolds we saw on holiday." That Tuesday in April began like any other. Rain tapped against my kitchen window as I prepared tea and toast. The news droned on about rising inflation and housing prices. My arthritis was acting up, making my fingers stiff as I buttered my toast. The phone rang, and Nathaniel's voice carried an unusual excitement. "Mum, are you sitting down? You won't believe it." "What's happened?" I asked, immediately concerned something was wrong with the children. "The lottery ticket. Victoria checked the numbers this morning. We've won. 20 million pounds, Mum. Can you believe it?" My teacup froze halfway to my lips. "Which ticket? The one you gave us last week? Those numbers you always play. Dad's birthday, your anniversary, the kids' birthdays. They all came up." A warm feeling spread through my chest. I thought of Terrence and how he would have reacted, probably dancing around the kitchen, planning all the ways we could help Nathaniel and the grandchildren. "That's wonderful, darling," I said, smiling to myself. Absolutely wonderful. Little did I know that this moment of joy would soon curdle into something else entirely, that within days, those lottery numbers would reveal not just unexpected wealth, but the true nature of the people I thought I knew best. Victoria insisted they host a celebration dinner that weekend. Their modest home was suddenly filled with flowers, expensive champagne, and faces I barely recognized. Colleagues from Victoria's office, and Nathaniel's gym friends who had never bothered to introduce themselves to me before. I wore my best dress, a navy blue number I'd worn to a cousin's wedding the previous summer. Victoria greeted me with air kisses, the scent of an unfamiliar, expensive perfume surrounding her. "Judith, don't you look nice?" she said, her eyes already moving past me to the next guest. "Help yourself to champagne. We're drinking Krug now. 20,000 pounds a case. Can you imagine?" Nathaniel hugged me tightly, but there was something different in his embrace, a stiffness that hadn't been there before. His eyes were bright, but not with the warmth I was accustomed to. There was a feverish quality to his excitement. "We've made an offer on a house in Sandbanks," he whispered. "Right on the water. Mum. 5 bedrooms, a cinema room, and a pool with a view of the harbor. You'll have to come see it." I found myself shepherded to a corner of the room, where I sat with a glass of too sweet champagne, watching as Victoria held court. She was dressed in a crimson dress I'd never seen before, diamonds glittering at her throat and ears. Of course, We'll be quitting our jobs, she announced to rapturous applause. Nathaniel's already handed in his notice. We're thinking of investing in property abroad, perhaps a villa in Mallorca and something in the south of France. Olivia and Marcus were allowed to stay up late, both dressed in new outfits. Olivia spotted me and rushed over, throwing her arms around my neck. Grandma, Mummy says we're going to a new school where all the rich children go, and I'm getting a pony. I smiled and hugged her tightly. That sounds very exciting, darling. Will you come and see my pony when I get it? She asked, her eyes wide and innocent. Of course I will, I promised. Later, as the evening wore on, I found myself alone in the kitchen, rinsing my glass at the sink. Victoria entered, slightly unsteady on her feet from champagne. Oh, Judith, still cleaning up after everyone else? I see, she said with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. Just my own glass, I replied mildly. It's been quite a celebration. Victoria leaned against the counter, studying me with a curious expression. You know, we've been thinking about what to do with you. With me? I echoed, genuinely confused. Well, your little pension won't go very far with prices rising as they are. Nathaniel was thinking we could set you up with something small, a flat, perhaps, closer to the new house. I set the glass down carefully. That's very thoughtful, but I'm quite happy in my home. Victoria's smile tightened. But it's so old, Judith. All those stairs with your arthritis. And it must be lonely, rattling around in that house all by yourself. Before I could respond, Nathaniel appeared in the doorway. Everything all right in here? Just chatting about the future, Victoria said, giving him a meaningful look. That night, as my taxi drove me home through rain-slicked streets, I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted. The taxi driver kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror. You all right, love? He finally asked. I realized tears were streaming down my face. I wiped them away quickly. Yes, I lied. Just tired. It's been a long evening. But in truth, it wasn't fatigue I felt. It was fear. Fear that money was about to change everything. Over the next few weeks, I watched from a distance as Nathaniel and Victoria's lives transformed. The lottery win made the local papers, then the national ones. There they were, grinning with an oversized check, Victoria in a designer outfit, Nathaniel looking somewhat dazed beside her. My calls to them went increasingly unanswered. When Nathaniel did pick up, he was always rushing somewhere, meeting with financial advisors, viewing properties, shopping for cars. Sorry, Mum, can't talk now. We're just about to test drive a Bentley. I'll call you later, yeah? Later never seemed to come. The children stopped visiting. When I called to ask if they might come for the weekend, Victoria answered, her voice cool and distant. Oh, we've enrolled them in weekend activities now. Olivia has dressage on Saturdays, and Marcus is doing private cricket coaching. It's all part of fitting in with their new peer group. I tried to keep busy. I planted new roses in the garden, joined a book club at the library, and had tea with my friend Margaret every Wednesday. But the absence of my family left a void that nothing else could fill. Then came the invitation, formal and printed on thick cream cardstock, to a housewarming party at their new Sandbanks property. I bought a new dress for the occasion, a soft gray that Margaret assured me brought out the blue in my eyes. I spent more than I should have on a housewarming gift, a beautiful landscape painting by a local artist that I thought would suit their new home. The taxi dropped me at the gates of an imposing white mansion. The grounds were immaculate, with manicured lawns stretching down to the water. I felt distinctly out of place as I approached the front door, my sensible shoes crunching on the gravel driveway. A young woman in a black uniform opened the door. May I help you? I'm Judith Harrington, I said, suddenly unsure. Nathaniel's mother. Oh, yes, please come in. The guests are gathering on the terrace. I followed her through a vast, echoing entrance hall with marble floors and a crystal chandelier that must have cost more than my entire house. The painting felt inadequate in my hands. The terrace overlooked the harbor, where expensive yachts bobbed gently in the summer breeze. I spotted Nathaniel near the bar, surrounded by men in linen suits. Victoria was holding court near the pool, resplendent in a white designer dress that highlighted her newly acquired tan. Nathaniel saw me and excused himself, coming over with a forced smile. Mum, you made it. It's quite a place, I said, handing him the painting. I brought this for your new home. He glanced at it briefly. Thanks, Mum. I'll have someone put it somewhere. He handed it to a passing staff member without a second look. "Where are the children?" I asked, looking around for my grandchildren. "Oh, they're at a sleepover with their new school friends. Networking, Victoria calls it." He chuckled, but it sounded hollow to my ears. Victoria glided over, air kissing me once again. "Judith, how unexpected. I wasn't sure you'd make it all this way." "I wouldn't miss seeing your new home," I replied politely. "It's fabulous, isn't it?" She gestured expansively. 22,000 square feet. The previous owner was a Russian oligarch. We got it for a steal, really. As the evening progressed, I felt increasingly invisible. Nathaniel and Victoria moved among their guests, laughing and drinking, rarely glancing my way. I found myself alone at a table, watching the sunset paint the harbor waters gold and crimson. A waiter refilled my wine glass. "Can I get you anything else, ma'am?" "No, thank you," I said, then hesitated. "Actually, could you call me a taxi? I think it's time for me to go home." As I waited by the front entrance for my taxi, Victoria appeared, champagne flute in hand. "Leaving so soon, Judith?" "Yes, it's getting late for me." She studied me for a moment, her expression calculating. "You know, we've been thinking, now that we've moved, we'll be traveling a lot. The Caribbean in winter, the Mediterranean in summer. We really won't have much time to come visit you in Dorchester. I understand you'll be busy," I said carefully. "More than busy. We're starting a whole new life." She took a sip of champagne. "Actually, Nathaniel wanted me to talk to you about something." My heart quickened. "Oh, your pension? It's so little, isn't it? And with the cost of maintaining that old house?" She trailed off, looking at me expectantly. "I manage," I said, lifting my chin slightly. Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. "We were thinking, maybe it's time for you to downsize, move into something more appropriate for your situation." "My home suits me fine," I replied, my voice firmer than I felt. "But we could help you," she insisted, an edge creeping into her voice. "Set you up in a nice retirement community, people your own age, activities, healthcare on site." I felt a chill despite the warm evening. "Victoria, I appreciate your concern, but I'm not ready for a retirement home." Her expression hardened. "Well, think about it. Things change, Judith. We've moved up in the world. And honestly, that old house of yours is becoming a bit embarrassing for us. What will our new friends think?" Before I could respond, my taxi arrived, saving me from having to answer. As I left, I caught a glimpse of Nathaniel through the window, laughing with a group of strangers, a different person from the son I thought I knew. A week after the housewarming party, Nathaniel arrived unannounced at my door. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon, and I was sorting through old photographs in the living room when the doorbell rang. He stood on the doorstep, water dripping from his expensive overcoat, looking uncomfortable. "Nathaniel," I said, surprised. "Come in out of the rain." He followed me into the kitchen, where I put the kettle on for tea. He remained standing, looking around the familiar room as if seeing it for the first time. "Your roof is leaking," he observed, nodding toward a small bucket I'd placed to catch drips in the corner. "Just a small leak. I've called someone to fix it next week." "This place is falling apart, Mum." He sighed, running a hand through his hair, now styled differently, I noticed, in a way that made him look like a stranger. I busied myself with tea bags and mugs. "What brings you here, Nathaniel? Is everything all right with the children?" "They're fine. Thriving, actually. Olivia's been invited to join the junior equestrian team, and Marcus is showing real promise at cricket." "That's wonderful," I said, meaning it. I'd love to see them soon. Perhaps they could come stay for a weekend. I miss them terribly. Nathaniel shifted uncomfortably. "That's actually why I'm here, Mum. Victoria and I have been talking. And, well, things are changing for us. Our social circle, our commitments." I set the mugs down with a small clatter. "What are you trying to say?" "We don't think it's appropriate anymore for the children to stay here." He gestured around the kitchen. "It's not up to the standards they're becoming accustomed to. And frankly, at your age, we're not sure you can keep up with them anymore." I felt as if I'd been slapped. Not keep up with them. "Nathaniel, I've been looking after those children since they were born." "I know, Mum, and we're grateful. But Victoria feels, we both feel, that it's time for a change." He pulled an envelope from his pocket and placed it on the table. "We want to help you." There's information here about a very nice retirement community and pool. Close enough that we could visit occasionally, but with all the amenities you need. My hands trembled slightly as I pushed the envelope back toward him. I'm not interested. His expression hardened. Be reasonable, Mum. This house is too big for you. Too expensive to maintain. You're living on a fixed income, and prices keep rising. I'm managing just fine, I said, my voice steady despite the hurt blooming in my chest. Are you? He looked pointedly at the leaking roof, the worn linoleum floor. Because it doesn't look that way to me. Victoria and I are prepared to be generous, but we need you to meet us halfway. Generous? I echoed, a spark of anger igniting within me. Is that what you call this? Trying to pack your mother away so she doesn't embarrass you in front of your new rich friends? Nathaniel's face flushed. That's not fair. We're trying to help you. No, I said quietly. You're trying to help yourselves. You've changed, Nathaniel. The money has changed you. He stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. Fine. Keep living in the past if that's what you want, but don't expect us to support your stubbornness. I've never asked for your support, I reminded him. I've always taken care of myself. Well, you're on your own now, he said, his voice cold. Victoria and I have decided it's best if we make a clean break. New life, new start. I felt the blood drain from my face. What about the children? My grandchildren? They'll understand in time that it's for the best. Victoria's already explained to them that you're getting too old for visits. Tears pricked at my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. So that's it. After everything, after all the years I've been there for you, for them, you're just cutting me out of your lives. Nathaniel had the grace to look momentarily ashamed, but it passed quickly. We don't need you anymore, Mum. The money has changed everything. We can give the children everything they need now. The best education, opportunities, connections. Your modest lifestyle doesn't fit with our plans. The kettle whistled shrilly, but neither of us moved to silence it. Goodbye, Mum, he said finally, turning toward the door. The offer stands if you change your mind about the retirement home. Otherwise, I think it's best if we go our separate ways. After he left, I sat alone at the kitchen table, the untouched mugs of tea growing cold before me. Rain continued to patter against the windows, and the roof dripped steadily into the bucket in the corner. The house had never felt so empty. But amid the pain and betrayal, something else stirred within me, a memory that had been lingering at the edges of my consciousness since the lottery win was announced. I rose slowly and made my way to the small desk in the living room, where I kept important papers in an old wooden box that had belonged to Terrence. With trembling fingers, I unlocked it and began to search. The following morning, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of strong tea, staring at the document I'd found in Terrence's box. It was a simple slip of paper, but its implications were profound. I traced my finger over my own handwriting, the list of lottery numbers, Terrence's birthday, our anniversary date, the children's birthdays, exactly the same numbers that had won the jackpot. But what made my heart race was my signature at the bottom, and the date, 3 months before Terrence died. We had made a pact, my husband and I, to play the same numbers every week. When he passed, I continued the tradition, buying 2 tickets each week, one in my name, one that I gave to Nathaniel, a small way of keeping Terrence's memory alive. The ticket that won, it had been in my name. I had given it to Nathaniel, as I always did, never imagining it would actually win, never thinking to mention whose name was registered for that particular play. I sipped my tea, considering my options. Part of me wanted to confront them immediately, to see the looks on their faces when they realized their sudden wealth might not be theirs after all. But another part, a wiser part perhaps, counseled patience. The doorbell rang, startling me from my thoughts. It was too early for the postman, and I wasn't expecting visitors. I tucked the lottery slip into my cardigan pocket and went to answer. To my surprise, Olivia stood on the doorstep, her school backpack slung over one shoulder, her face tear-stained. Olivia, what on earth are you doing here? Does your mother know where you are? She shook her head, her lower lip trembling. I took the bus. I remembered the route from when we used to visit. I ushered her inside, heart pounding with worry. Darling, you can't just leave school and take a bus by yourself. Your parents will be frantic. They won't notice, she said bitterly, dropping her backpack on the floor. They're too busy with their new friends and their new things. I guided her to the kitchen and sat her down, putting the kettle on for hot chocolate, her favorite. "Tell me what's happened." Olivia's story tumbled out between sobs. Victoria had enrolled her in an exclusive private school, where the other girls mocked her for not knowing the right designers or having the right accent. Marcus was miserable too, bullied by boys who called him new money. Their parents were rarely home, too busy with parties and shopping trips and meetings with financial advisors. "And yesterday," she finished, wiping her nose with the back of her hand, "Mum said we can't see you anymore because you're too old and poor, and it would be embarrassing." I handed her the hot chocolate, my heart breaking for her. "I see. I hate the new house," Olivia continued. "It's too big and empty and cold. I miss our old house. I miss you." I sat beside her and stroked her hair, just as I had done when she was small. "I miss you too, darling. More than you can imagine. Can I stay with you, Grandma? Please?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Nathaniel, his voice tight with controlled fury. "Is Olivia with you?" "Her school called to say she never arrived this morning." "Yes, she's here," I said calmly. "She's safe, having hot chocolate." "What the hell, Mum? Did you put her up to this?" "Of course not," I replied, keeping my voice level for Olivia's sake. "She arrived on my doorstep in tears." "We'll be there in an hour," he snapped. "Don't fill her head with any nonsense while we're on our way." After hanging up, I turned back to Olivia, who was looking at me with pleading eyes. "Do I have to go back with them?" I sighed, sitting down beside her. "For now, yes. They're your parents, and they love you, even if they're not showing it very well at the moment." We spent the hour looking through old photo albums. Olivia giggled at pictures of her father as a boy, and I told her stories about Terrence, whom she barely remembered. It was a precious time, a reminder of what family should be. When the doorbell rang again, I steeled myself. Victoria stormed in first, dressed immaculately as always, her face a mask of controlled anger. "Olivia, get your things. We're leaving." Olivia clutched my hand tightly. "And I don't want to go." Nathaniel followed, looking uncomfortable. "This isn't up for discussion, Olivia. You can't just run away when you don't like something. Like you've run away from your old life, from your mother." I couldn't help asking. Victoria rounded on me. "This is your doing, isn't it? Turning her against us because you're jealous of what we have now." I felt the lottery slip in my pocket, but again, something held me back from revealing it. "I've done nothing of the sort, but perhaps you should listen to what Olivia has to say. She's unhappy, Nathaniel. Both children are. They're adjusting," Victoria said dismissively. "It's normal when your circumstances change so dramatically." "Is it normal to tell them their grandmother is too old and poor to be part of their lives?" I asked quietly. Nathaniel at least had the grace to look ashamed, but Victoria merely lifted her chin defiantly. "We're giving them opportunities you could never provide. They need to focus on fitting in with the right sort of people now." "The right sort of people," I repeated. "And I'm the wrong sort, am I?" Victoria's gaze swept around my modest kitchen, taking in the worn countertops, the aging appliances. "Let's be honest, Judith. We've moved up in the world. We don't need your little pension or your outdated values anymore. It's time to say goodbye." The words stung, but I maintained my composure. "Is that how you see family, Victoria? As something you can discard when it no longer serves your purposes?" "Mum, please," Nathaniel interjected, looking uncomfortable. "This isn't helping." "No, let her speak," Victoria said with a cold smile. "Let's have it all out in the open. We don't need you anymore, Judith. The money has changed everything. We can give Olivia and Marcus the best of everything now. The best schools, the best opportunities. Your little cottage visits and homemade cookies don't fit into that picture." I looked at my son, searching for any sign of the boy I'd raised, the man who had once valued family above all else. "Is that how you feel too, Nathaniel?" He couldn't meet my eyes. "Things change, Mom. We have to look to the future now." "I see." I took a deep breath, my hand closing around the lottery slip in my pocket. But looking at Olivia's tearful face, I knew this wasn't the moment. There was more at stake here than money. "Well, before you go, there's something I think you should know." Victoria checked her watch impatiently. "Make it quick. We have a meeting with our interior designer at noon." I smiled, a calm settling over me as I made my decision. Did you know that when your father and I played the lottery, we had an agreement? We each registered separate tickets in our own names. After he died, I continued the tradition. One ticket in my name, one that I would give to you. Nathaniel. A flicker of unease crossed Victoria's face. What are you getting at? The winning ticket, I said softly. The one with all our special family dates on it. Terrence's birthday, our anniversary, the children's birthdays. That ticket was registered in my name. The color drained from Victoria's face. You're lying. I pulled the slip from my pocket and placed it on the table. Am I? It's all here. The numbers, my signature, the date. The Lottery Commission would be very interested to see this, I imagine. Nathaniel stared at the paper, his expression shocked. Mum, what are you saying? I'm saying that the 20 million pounds you've been spending so freely might not legally be yours at all. Victoria lunged for the paper, but I was quicker, snatching it back and tucking it safely away. You can't do this, she hissed. We've already spent some of it. We've bought the house, the cars, on credit, I imagine. While waiting for the full payment to clear, I replied calmly. That's how these things usually work, isn't it? The silence that followed was deafening. Olivia looked between us, confused but sensing the shift in power. What do you want? Victoria finally asked, her voice brittle. I looked at my granddaughter, then at my son, and knew exactly what I wanted, what I had always wanted. Family, I said simply. Nothing more, nothing less. The days following my revelation were tense. Nathaniel called repeatedly, his tone vacillating between conciliatory and desperate. Victoria sent emails filled with veiled threats and accusations. I maintained a dignified silence, waiting for them to realize that what was at stake was far more valuable than money. I consulted a solicitor, a kind man named Mr. Blackwood, who had handled Terrence's will. He confirmed what I already suspected. The lottery ticket was legally mine. The commission would recognize my claim if I chose to pursue it. But you haven't decided yet, have you, Mrs. Harrington? He observed shrewdly over his half-moon spectacles. I smiled faintly. No, I haven't. It's complicated. Family usually is, he replied with understanding. Take your time. The claim won't expire. A week after Olivia's visit, I received a call from an unexpected source. Marcus. His voice was small and hesitant on the phone. Grandma, it's me. I'm using Dad's office phone while he's in the shower. Marcus, darling, how are you? Not good, he admitted. Olivia told me what happened, about the lottery ticket being yours. Is it true? Yes, it is, I said gently. Are you going to take all the money away? I sighed. I haven't decided yet, love. It's not about the money, really. There was a pause. Then, Mum's been crying a lot. Dad hardly talks anymore. They're fighting all the time. My heart ached for him. I'm sorry you're caught in the middle of this. Can I come see you, like Olivia did? Your parents might not approve, I said carefully. I don't care, he replied with unexpected fierceness. You're my grandma. They can't stop me from seeing you. We arranged for him to visit that weekend. I hung up with mixed emotions. Happiness at the prospect of seeing my grandson, but sadness that it had come to this. Saturday arrived with clear skies and sunshine. I spent the morning baking Marcus's favorite biscuits and preparing his preferred lunch of cheese toasties and tomato soup. At precisely 11 o'clock, the doorbell rang. To my astonishment, it wasn't just Marcus standing on my doorstep, but Nathaniel as well. My son looked haggard, with dark circles under his eyes and a defeated slump to his shoulders. Hello, Mum, he said quietly. Marcus insisted on coming. I thought I should drive him. I stepped aside to let them in, my heart pounding. That was thoughtful of you. Marcus hugged me tightly before rushing into the kitchen, no doubt lured by the smell of fresh baking. Nathaniel and I stood awkwardly in the hallway. You look tired, I observed. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. Haven't been sleeping well. No, I imagine not. He met my eyes for the first time. Victoria's talking about lawyers, fighting the claim. Is that what you want? Nathaniel sighed heavily. I don't know what I want anymore, Mum. Everything's such a mess. I led him into the living room, away from Marcus's eager ears. Sit down, Nathaniel. I think it's time we had an honest conversation. He sank onto the sofa, looking around the familiar room with new eyes. This house. I grew up here. Dad taught me to play chess in that corner. You nursed me through chicken pox on that very sofa. Yes, I said softly. This house holds all our memories. That's why I could never leave it, no matter how grand your new mansion might be. I'm sorry, he whispered, his voice breaking. I don't know what happened to me. To us. The money. It was like a drug. Suddenly we could have everything we'd ever wanted, and it wasn't enough. We just kept wanting more. I sat beside him, close but not touching. Money has a way of revealing who people truly are. Sometimes the revelation isn't pretty. And who am I? He asked, looking at me with haunted eyes. What kind of son treats his mother the way I've treated you? You're still my son, I said firmly. Misguided, perhaps. Temporarily blinded by wealth and Victoria's ambitions. But still my son. He buried his face in his hands. Victoria's talking about divorce. Says she can't go back to our old life after tasting luxury. Says if you take the money, she'll take the children and leave me with nothing. My heart sank. Despite everything, I had never wanted to destroy their marriage. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? He asked, a hint of bitterness creeping into his voice. You never liked her. I never disliked her either, I corrected gently. I simply recognized that her values were different from ours. The money merely widened that gap. From the kitchen came the sound of Marcus happily munching biscuits, humming to himself, a small island of innocence in our sea of adult complications. What are you going to do, Mum? About the ticket? I studied my son's face, the boy I had raised, the man who had broken my heart, and now this new version, humbled and uncertain. What do you think I should do? I asked. He looked surprised by the question. If our positions were reversed, I don't think I'd be very forgiving. Perhaps not, but forgiveness isn't about what's deserved. It's about what's needed. His eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve your forgiveness. No, I agreed, but you need it. You, and more importantly, Marcus and Olivia need their family whole again, however that might look. We were interrupted by Marcus bounding into the room, his mouth ringed with chocolate from the biscuits. Dad, Grandma's got all the old photo albums out. Can we look at them? Please. Nathaniel wiped his eyes quickly and managed a smile. Sorry, of course, buddy. The three of us spent the afternoon poring over photographs, sharing stories, and simply being together. It was tentative and fragile, this reconnection, but it was a beginning. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the garden, Nathaniel finally broached the subject again. About the lottery ticket. Mum, I held up a hand to stop him. I've made my decision. But before I tell you what it is, I need you to understand something. This was never about the money for me. It was about respect, about family, about the values your father and I tried to instill in you. Nathaniel nodded, his expression solemn. I understand that now. Do you? Because if I decide to share this windfall with you, I need to know that you won't let it change you again, that you'll remember what truly matters. Marcus looked between us, sensing the gravity of the moment, even if he didn't fully comprehend it. Dad says we might move back to our old house, he offered. I'd like that. I miss my friends from the old neighborhood. Nathaniel put an arm around his son's shoulders. Nothing's decided yet, Marcus. But yes, we're thinking about it. I studied them both, my son and grandson, so alike in many ways, both at crossroads in their lives. Here's what I propose, I said finally. The money belongs legally to me. I won't contest that fact, but I'm willing to share it, with conditions. What kind of conditions? Nathaniel asked cautiously. First, a trust fund for Marcus and Olivia's education, something sensible that will see them through university and perhaps help them buy their first homes when they're ready, not enough to spoil them, but enough to give them security. Nathaniel nodded. That sounds reasonable. Second, I want us to be a family again, regular visits, holidays together. No more talk of retirement homes or being too old or poor to be part of your lives. Of course, he said quickly. I'm ashamed we ever suggested it. And third, I continued, I want you to think carefully about what kind of life you want to lead. The mansion, the luxury cars, the designer clothes. Is that really who you are, Nathaniel? Is that the example you want to set for your children? He was quiet for a long moment, absently stroking Marcus's hair. No, he said finally. It's not. I think I've known that all along. It was just intoxicating. The idea that we could have anything we wanted. And Victoria? I asked gently. What does she want? His expression clouded. I don't know anymore. We've barely spoken since Olivia came to see you. She's staying with her sister in London. I nodded, unsurprised. She'll have to make her own choices. But you need to make yours, for yourself and for your children. The following day, I called Mr. Blackwood and set my plan in motion. Half of the lottery winnings would go into trust funds for Olivia and Marcus, accessible only for education and their first homes. A quarter would go to Nathaniel, but only after the sale of the Sandbanks mansion and the return to a more modest lifestyle. The remaining quarter would be mine, enough to fix my roof, make some improvements to the house, and perhaps finally take that trip to the Cotswolds that Terence and I had always dreamed about. As for Victoria, her decision came swiftly and painfully for all involved. When she learned of my conditions and Nathaniel's acceptance of them, she filed for divorce, demanding half of whatever Nathaniel would receive. The children would stay with him during the school year, with Victoria taking them during holidays, an arrangement that seemed to suit her newfound lifestyle of travel and socializing. It was a painful period of adjustment for everyone, but especially for Olivia and Marcus. I did what I could to provide stability, opening my home to them whenever they needed a respite from the tension. Slowly, a new normal began to emerge from the chaos. Autumn arrived with a blaze of color in my garden. The roof had been repaired, the old boiler replaced, and the kitchen renovated with new countertops and appliances. I'd made improvements, but nothing ostentatious. This was still the home where Terence and I had built our life together, and I wanted to preserve its character. Nathaniel had sold the Sandbanks mansion at a small loss, and moved back to a house not far from their original one, larger and more comfortable than before, but still within the same community where the children had friends. He'd taken a part-time position at his old accounting firm, more to give his days structure than out of financial necessity. Victoria had moved permanently to London, where she'd established herself in a fashionable apartment and begun a career in high-end property development. Her visits with the children were infrequent, but cordial. The divorce proceedings continued, with occasional flare-ups of acrimony, but for the most part, everyone was trying to move forward. On a crisp Saturday in October, I was tending to my roses when a taxi pulled up outside. To my surprise, Victoria stepped out, elegant as ever in a camel-colored coat and leather boots. She paid the driver and stood for a moment, looking at my house with an unreadable expression. "Victoria?" I said, setting down my gardening shears. "This is unexpected." "I was in the area," she replied, though we both knew that was unlikely. "May I come in?" I led her inside, conscious of the mud on my gardening trousers and the wisps of hair escaping from my bun. Victoria had always made me feel somewhat inadequate with her polished appearance, and today was no exception. "Tea?" I offered, putting the kettle on without waiting for her response. She nodded, seating herself at the kitchen table and glancing around at the new appliances. "You've made some changes." "A few," I acknowledged. "Nothing dramatic." "Unlike me," she said with a wry smile. "I seem to specialize in the dramatic these days." I set the tea things on the table and sat across from her. "How are you, Victoria?" "Really?" She seemed surprised by the genuine concern in my voice. "I'm adjusting. London is exciting. My new job is challenging. I have new friends, new interests. And the children. Do you miss them?" Her composure slipped momentarily. "Every day," she admitted. "But I'm not. I was never the nurturing type. Was I? Not like you. We all mother in different ways," I said diplomatically. Victoria stirred her tea, avoiding my eyes. "I was awful to you. The things I said, about you being too old, too poor. It was cruel." "Yes, it was," I agreed, seeing no point in pretending otherwise. "I was drunk on the possibilities," she continued. "All my life, I've wanted more than my parents had, more than Nathaniel could provide. When the money came, it was like validation that I deserved more, that I was meant for a different life. And are you happier in that different life?" She considered the question carefully. "More parts of it. Yes, I like my work. I like the freedom, but I miss..." She trailed off, then shook her head. "It doesn't matter." "It does matter," I insisted gently. "What do you miss, Victoria?" "Family," she said quietly. Not the day-to-day chaos and demands. I was never good with those. But the knowledge that I belonged somewhere, to someone, that there were people who would always be there, no matter what. I reached across the table and took her hand. To my surprise, she didn't pull away. "You're still family," I told her. "You're still Olivia and Marcus's mother. Nothing changes that." Tears welled in her eyes. "Nathaniel hates me now." "No," I corrected her. "He's hurt and angry, but he doesn't hate you. He's never stopped loving you, even when you were at your worst." She wiped her eyes quickly, embarrassed by the display of emotion. "I didn't come here for relationship advice. I came to apologize, and to ask if I could occasionally see the children here, on neutral ground. It's awkward at Nathaniel's, and my flat in London isn't really set up for children." "Of course," I said without hesitation. "Yeah, they're your children, Victoria. They need their mother." She nodded, visibly relieved. "Thank you." She hesitated, then added, "I know what you did with the money. The trust funds for the children, the conditions you placed on Nathaniel's portion. It was wise. Coming from Victoria, this was high praise indeed. And it seemed the best way to ensure the money didn't cause more harm than good. I wish I'd had your perspective," she said ruefully. "Perhaps things would have turned out differently. Perhaps," I agreed. "But we can't change the past. We can only move forward." After Victoria left, I sat in my garden, thinking about family and forgiveness, and the strange turns life can take. The lottery win, which could have been a blessing, had nearly destroyed us all. Yet here we were, finding our way back to each other, albeit along a different path than before. The following weekend, Victoria returned with a large box of Olivia's favorite pastries from an upmarket London bakery. Nathaniel brought the children, and though the atmosphere was initially strained, it gradually eased as we focused on Olivia and Marcus, rather than our own complicated feelings. "Grandma's garden is the best place for hide and seek," Marcus declared, pulling Victoria by the hand. "Come on, Mom. You have to see the fort Dad helped me build behind the apple trees." I watched from the kitchen window as Victoria, still in her designer clothes, crouched down to examine Marcus's fort, her face lighting up with genuine interest as he explained its features. Nathaniel stood a little apart, his expression guarded but not hostile. Olivia darted between them, a bridge connecting the separated parts of her family. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the family we had been before, but it was a family nonetheless, finding its way forward with new understanding and, perhaps, a little more wisdom than before. Winter descended with unusual ferocity that year. Snow blanketed my garden, transforming the dormant roses and bare fruit trees into a crystalline wonderland. Inside, I kept the house warm and welcoming, especially important now that it had become a regular gathering place for our reconfigured family. Victoria had settled into a pattern of visiting every other weekend, sometimes staying in my spare room rather than making the late journey back to London. Nathaniel came with the children, and though he and Victoria maintained a careful distance, they had developed a civil co-parenting relationship that put the children's needs first. I had used some of my lottery money to renovate the garden shed into a cozy playhouse for Olivia and Marcus, complete with heating and electricity. It quickly became their favorite retreat, a place where the complications of their parents' divorce faded into the background. One snowy Saturday in January, as Victoria and I prepared lunch in the kitchen while the children played in the garden with Nathaniel, she surprised me with a question. "Do you ever think about what you'll do with the rest of your money, Judith? You've made some improvements to the house, but you're hardly living an extravagant lifestyle." I smiled as I chopped vegetables for soup. "I have everything I need, but yes, I have plans. May I ask what they are?" "I'm establishing a foundation," I told her, "for families affected by sudden wealth syndrome." Victoria's eyebrows rose. "Is that a real thing?" "Very real, as we discovered," I said wryly. "Sudden wealth can be as destructive as it is beneficial. The foundation will provide counseling, financial education, and support for families trying to navigate that transition." She was quiet for a moment, then said, "That's surprisingly insightful. I've had some experience in the area," I replied with a small smile. Victoria laughed, a genuine sound that I'd rarely heard from her before. "Yes, I suppose you have." She hesitated, then added, "I'd like to help, if you'd let me. Perhaps share our story." Anonymously, of course. It might help others avoid our mistakes. I was touched by the offer. I'd like that very much. Outside, snow began to fall again, fat flakes drifting past the window. Nathaniel appeared at the back door, stomping snow from his boots. "It's getting heavy out there," he announced. "The kids want to build a snowman before it gets too deep to manage." "I'll find some carrots for the nose," I said, turning to the refrigerator. Victoria removed her apron. "I'll help them. I haven't built a snowman since I was a child." Nathaniel looked surprised but nodded. "They'd like that." I watched from the kitchen window as the four of them worked together in the snow, Victoria showing Olivia how to pack the snow properly, Nathaniel lifting Marcus to place the carrot nose. They weren't a conventional family anymore, but they were finding new ways to be present for each other, to create memories that would sustain the children through the changes in their lives. Later, as we sat around the fire with mugs of hot chocolate, Olivia snuggled beside me on the sofa. "Grandma," she whispered, "are you glad the lottery ticket was yours?" I considered her question carefully. "I'm glad things worked out the way they did," I said finally. "The money itself doesn't mean much to me. But having all of you here, together in this house again, that's worth more than any lottery jackpot." She nodded solemnly. "Mum says money shows who people really are. Your mother is right about that," I agreed, glancing at Victoria, who was teaching Marcus to play chess in the corner. "But people can surprise you. They can learn and grow and become better versions of themselves." "Like Dad?" she asked. "Like all of us," I corrected gently. That night, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet again, I sat by the fire with a photo of Terrence on my lap. "You'd be proud of them," I told his smiling image. "They lost their way for a while, but they're finding it again. And the grandchildren, they're resilient, just like you always said children are." The lottery ticket that could have torn us apart forever had, in the end, forced us to confront hard truths about ourselves and each other. It had stripped away pretenses and revealed character, for better and for worse. But it had also created an opportunity for genuine change, for growth and reconciliation that might never have happened otherwise. As I banked the fire for the night, I thought about the plans I'd made for the spring, the trip to the Cotswolds that Terrence and I had always dreamed about. I would go alone now, carrying his memory with me, but I would return to this house, to the family that was healing around me, finding its new shape day by day. The money that had nearly destroyed us was now, in its way, helping to rebuild us, not as we had been before, but as something new and perhaps, in time, something stronger. Spring arrived in a burst of green, transforming my garden from its winter slumber into a riot of color. Daffodils nodded their golden heads along the borders, and the apple trees burst into delicate pink and white blossoms. It was my favorite time of year, full of promise and renewal. I had just returned from my trip to the Cotswolds, a bittersweet journey, walking the paths Terrence and I had once planned to explore together. I'd stayed in charming bed and breakfasts, visited ancient villages with honey-colored stone cottages, and spent peaceful hours beside clear streams. Throughout the journey, I'd felt Terrence's presence beside me, as if he were experiencing it all through my eyes. Now, back in my own garden, I was planting new rose bushes when Nathaniel's car pulled into the driveway. He emerged looking troubled, and I knew immediately something was wrong. "Mum," he said, kissing my cheek absently. "Have you got a minute?" I led him inside, made tea, and sat with him at the kitchen table. "What's happened?" He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so reminiscent of his father that it made my heart ache. "It's Victoria. She's been offered a position in New York, a major property development firm. It's a huge opportunity for her." "I see," I said carefully. "And she's considering it." "More than considering. She's accepted. She leaves in 3 weeks." I absorbed this news, thinking of its implications for the fragile new family structure we'd established. What about the children? The custody arrangement? That's why I'm here. She wants to change it. She wants them to come to New York for the entire summer, plus Christmas and Easter breaks. How do you feel about that?" He sighed heavily. "I don't know. Part of me thinks it would be good for them to see another country, have that experience. But 3 months is a long time, and they've only just started to feel settled again after everything that happened. Have you discussed it with Olivia and Marcus?" "Not yet. Victoria wants us to present a united front, whatever we decide." I nodded, appreciating the maturity this represented. That's wise. The thing is, Nathaniel continued, I'm not sure I trust her motives. Is this really about her career, or is it another manifestation of her restlessness, her need for more, bigger, different? People can have multiple motivations, I suggested. It can be a genuine career opportunity and also satisfy her desire for change. He nodded slowly. I suppose. But what about the children? Will they become pawns in her pursuit of whatever it is she's pursuing? Have you asked her these questions directly? We're having dinner tonight to discuss it, he admitted. I wanted to talk to you first. Get your perspective. I considered carefully before answering. The situation was delicate, with the potential to reignite old conflicts or create new ones. I think, I said finally, that you need to separate your feelings about Victoria from what's best for the children. Ask yourself, would this experience enrich their lives? Would they be safe and cared for? Would they maintain their connection to you even at a distance? And if the answers are yes, then perhaps you need to set aside your reservations and support this new chapter, with clear boundaries and expectations. Nathaniel was quiet for a moment, stirring his tea absently. It's hard, he said finally. Every time I think we've found a stable new normal, something changes. That's life, darling, I said gently. Nothing stays the same forever. We adapt, we grow, we find new ways forward. Later that week, Victoria came to see me. She looked both excited and anxious as she explained her new opportunity. It's with Halcyon International, she said, a name that meant nothing to me but clearly held significance for her. They're one of the top luxury development firms in the world. I'd be heading their European acquisitions division, based in New York, but traveling to London and Paris regularly. It sounds impressive, I acknowledged. Congratulations. Thank you. She hesitated. Nathaniel says he spoke to you about the children spending summers and holidays with me. He did. And what do you think? She asked, surprising me with her directness. Be honest, Judith. Your opinion matters to me. I studied her face, noting the genuine concern beneath her excitement. I think, I said carefully, that if you're committed to maintaining their sense of security and continuity, it could be a wonderful experience for them. New York is an amazing city for children to explore. Relief washed over her features. That's what I think, too. I've already researched summer camps and activities, museums, parks. I want to make it special for them, not just have them sitting in an apartment while I work. And during the school year, how will you stay connected? Video calls, emails, and I'll fly back at least once a month for a long weekend, even if it's just to see them for a day or two. I nodded, impressed by the thought she'd put into this. You've planned this carefully. I've learned something from all this, Judith, she said, meeting my eyes directly. I've learned that family isn't disposable, even when circumstances change, even when we change. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. That's a valuable lesson. Victoria's eyes filled with unexpected tears. I've been so terrible to you, to all of you, and yet here you are, still listening, still caring. That's what family does, I said simply. The decision was ultimately made to allow the children to spend summers and major holidays with Victoria in New York, with the arrangement to be reviewed after the first year. Olivia and Marcus reacted with a mixture of excitement and apprehension, but the adults in their lives worked together to reassure them, to make the transition as smooth as possible. In the weeks before Victoria's departure, she spent more time at my house than ever before. We worked in the garden together, planned the children's summer wardrobe, and even prepared a family recipe book so she could cook familiar meals for them in New York. I never thought I'd be taking cooking advice from you, she remarked one afternoon as we bottled homemade jam for her to take to New York. I was always so dismissive of domestic skills. We all have different strengths, I replied, sealing a jar of strawberry preserve. I could never have headed a European acquisitions division. She laughed. No, but you manage something much more important. A family. I'm only just beginning to understand how much skill that requires. The day of Victoria's departure arrived with mixed emotions. We gathered at my house for a farewell lunch before she left for the airport. The children were subdued, the reality of their mother's move finally sinking in. It's not goodbye, Victoria assured them, kneeling to look them in the eyes. It's just, see you soon. Before you know it, school will be finished and you'll be joining me in New York for the most exciting summer of your lives. Olivia hugged her fiercely. Promise you won't forget about us when you're in your fancy New York office. Never, Victoria said firmly. You're the most important people in my world, no matter where I am. As Victoria's taxi arrived to take her to the airport, she turned to me with tears in her eyes. Thank you, she said softly, for everything. For teaching me what family really means. I hugged her goodbye, this woman who had once been my adversary, and was now, in her own way, part of my family. Take care of yourself, Victoria. And remember, there's always a place for you here. After she left, the house felt strangely empty. Nathaniel took the children home, promising to bring them back for Sunday lunch as usual. I busied myself clearing away the remains of our meal, thinking about the journey we'd all been on since that fateful lottery win. The money that could have been a curse had, in the end, forced us to confront difficult truths and find our way to something better. Not perfect, life never is, but authentic and grounded in what truly matters. Summer arrived with unprecedented heat, turning my garden into a haven of shade and cool breezes amid the surrounding parched lawns. The children had left for New York 2 weeks earlier, their departure a mixture of tears and excitement. Nathaniel had accompanied them for the first few days to help them settle into Victoria's sleek Manhattan apartment, returning with reports of skyscrapers in Central Park and the children's wide-eyed wonder at their new temporary home. Now, on a sweltering July afternoon, I sat in the shade of my apple tree, a glass of iced tea beside me, as I video called with Olivia and Marcus. Their faces filled my tablet screen, their voices tumbling over each other as they recounted their latest adventures. Grandma, we went to the Museum of Natural History and saw dinosaurs, Marcus exclaimed, his face so close to the camera I could see each freckle on his nose. Real dinosaur bones, bigger than our whole house. Not quite that big, Victoria's voice corrected from somewhere off screen. But impressive nonetheless. And Mum took us to a Broadway show, Olivia added. The Lion King. The costumes were amazing, Grandma. I want to learn to make costumes like that when I grow up. That sounds wonderful, darling, I replied, my heart warming at their enthusiasm. Are you eating properly? Getting enough sleep? Victoria appeared in the frame, looking relaxed and happier than I'd ever seen her. They're fine, Judith. Thriving, actually. Though Marcus refuses to eat anything but hot dogs from the street vendors. They're the best, he defended. And what about you, Victoria? I asked. How is the new job? Challenging? Exciting? Exhausting, she admitted. But I love it. And the company has been incredibly accommodating about my schedule with the children. After we'd said our goodbyes, promising to call again in a few days, I sat quietly in the garden, reflecting on how much had changed. The children were experiencing a world beyond Dorchester, beyond anything they might have known in their previous life. Victoria was pursuing a career that genuinely seemed to fulfill her. And Nathaniel, though missing the children terribly, was using the time to rebuild his own life, renovating his house, reconnecting with old friends, even dating occasionally. As for me, the foundation I'd established was beginning to take shape. I'd hired a small staff, rented a modest office in town, and begun reaching out to families who'd experienced sudden wealth through lottery wins, inheritances, or business success. The stories I heard echoed our own experience: relationships strained or broken, values questioned, identities lost and found again. One particularly hot afternoon in late July, I was meeting with the foundation's legal advisor in my garden when Nathaniel arrived unexpectedly. He looked troubled, and I excused myself from the meeting to speak with him privately. What's wrong? I asked, leading him into the coolness of the kitchen. Is it the children? No, they're fine, he assured me. It's Victoria. She called this morning. She's been offered a permanent position in New York, Senior Vice President of Global Acquisitions. I took a moment to absorb this. I see, and she's considering it. More than considering. She wants to accept, but she also wants to revise our custody arrangement. She's proposing that the children live with her in New York during the school year, and with me during summers and holidays, essentially flipping our current arrangement. My heart sank for him. Oh, Nathaniel, how do you feel about that? He paced the kitchen, agitated, devastated, angry, betrayed. I feel like she's using this job as an excuse to take the children away from me. Have you spoken to her about these feelings? Not yet. I needed to calm down first, to get some perspective. He stopped pacing and looked at me directly. What would you do, Mum? If you were me, I chose my words carefully. I'd try to separate my feelings about Victoria from what might be best for the children. They seem happy in New York. They're experiencing things they never would here, but they also need stability, routine, and both their parents. So you think I should agree? His voice held a note of betrayal. No, I said firmly. I think you should negotiate. Find a compromise that honors everyone's needs, yours, Victoria's, and most importantly, the children's. He sat heavily at the kitchen table. I'm afraid if they go, I'll lose them. That they'll become like Victoria, always wanting more, always looking beyond what they have. I sat beside him, taking his hand. That's not how children work, darling. They absorb values from both parents. Yes, they'll learn ambition and worldliness from Victoria, but they'll also learn loyalty and groundedness from you. Both are valuable. I miss them, he said simply. The house is so quiet without them. I know, I said softly. I miss them too. After Nathaniel left, I sat in my garden as twilight descended, bringing blessed relief from the day's heat. Fireflies began to appear among the roses, their tiny lights blinking like earthbound stars. I thought about Victoria's offer, about Nathaniel's fears, about the children caught between two worlds. The next morning, I did something impulsive. I booked a flight to New York. 3 days later, I was stepping off a plane at JFK Airport, the humid heat of a Manhattan summer enveloping me as I emerged from the air-conditioned terminal. Victoria had insisted on sending a car for me, and the driver held a sign with Mrs. Harrington neatly printed on it. The children's joy at my surprise visit was worth every moment of the long journey. They bounded into my arms in the lobby of Victoria's building, talking over each other in their excitement to show me their temporary home, to tell me about their adventures, to simply be with me. Victoria greeted me with genuine warmth, ushering me into her sleek apartment with its breathtaking views of Central Park. "This is unexpected," she said, once the children had dragged me off to see their rooms. "But I'm glad you're here. There's a lot we need to discuss." Over the next few days, I immersed myself in the children's New York life, visiting their favorite spots in Central Park, navigating the subway system with them as my guides, seeing the city through their enchanted eyes. In the evenings, after they'd gone to bed, Victoria and I talked long into the night about the future, about her job offer, about what was best for everyone. "I never planned this," she confessed one evening as we sat on her balcony, the lights of the city spread before us like a carpet of stars. "I never came here intending to stay permanently. But this opportunity, it's once in a lifetime, Judith." "I understand that," I said. "But so are the children's formative years. Once in a lifetime, never to be repeated." She nodded, acknowledging the truth of this. "I've been thinking about Nathaniel's concerns, about splitting their time between continents, about the instability it might create. And I think he's right to be concerned. But I also think we can make it work, with enough planning and communication." On my last evening in New York, Victoria hosted a small dinner party in her apartment. The children were allowed to stay up late, proud to help serve canapés to the adults. Victoria's colleagues were intelligent and interesting, clearly holding her in high regard. I could see why this world appealed to her. The sophistication, the ambition, the sense of being at the center of something important. After the guests had left and the children were finally in bed, Victoria poured us each a glass of wine and joined me on the balcony. "I've made a decision," she said, looking out over the glittering city. "I'm going to accept the job." I nodded, having expected this. "Send the children. I want them with me," she said honestly, "but not at the expense of their relationship with their father, not at the expense of their sense of home and belonging. So, what do you propose?" "A compromise. They'll stay with me here for this coming school year. I've found an excellent international school nearby. We'll make it a grand adventure, an educational experience. But we'll return to England next summer, and I'll commute from London to New York as needed. It's not ideal for my career, but," she shrugged, "some things are more important." I studied her face in the soft light. "You've changed, Victoria." "Is that a compliment?" she asked with a small smile. "Yes," I said simply. "It is. When I returned to England, I brought with me not just souvenirs and photographs, but a renewed sense of possibility. Nathaniel was initially resistant to Victoria's proposal, but eventually agreed to a 1-year trial. The children would document their New York experience in journals and video diaries, maintaining daily contact with their father. Victoria would bring them back to England for half-term breaks and major holidays. And next summer, they would all reassess. As summer waned and September approached, preparations for the children's departure intensified. School supplies were purchased, winter clothes packed, tearful goodbyes exchanged with friends and teachers. Nathaniel put on a brave face, focusing on the adventures ahead rather than his own sense of loss. The night before they were to leave, everyone gathered at my house for a farewell dinner. The mood was bittersweet, excitement for what lay ahead, tempered by the knowledge that nothing would ever be quite the same again. After dinner, as Victoria helped me with the dishes, she said quietly, "Thank you, Judith, for coming to New York, for helping me see clearly." "What did you see?" I asked, curious. That wealth isn't just about money. It's about experiences, relationships, belonging. I still want success, but I want it as part of a full life, not instead of one. I smiled, recognizing in her words the lesson that had been so painfully learned by all of us since that fateful lottery win. "Then perhaps," I said, "you've become truly rich after all." Autumn passed with frequent video calls and care packages crossing the Atlantic. The children thrived in New York, while Nathaniel found purpose in consulting work and the company of Sarah, a kind-hearted librarian from the children's school. December brought the children home for Christmas, their voices now carrying slight American accents as they excitedly shared stories of skyscrapers and snow in Central Park. Victoria joined them, visibly tired but content in her flourishing career. We gathered at my house on Christmas Eve, a beautiful, unconventional family celebration. Nathaniel had invited Sarah, who integrated seamlessly into our gathering, her gentle nature a complement to our family dynamic. Victoria, to my surprise, showed no jealousy, only a thoughtful acceptance. After dinner, Victoria pulled me aside. "Watching Nathaniel with Sarah makes me realize we were never truly right for each other," she confessed. "We wanted different things. Perhaps this arrangement is better for everyone." As the evening ended, I observed my reforged family, not perfect but resilient and loving in its new configuration. The lottery that nearly destroyed us had, ironically, led us to a more authentic understanding of ourselves and each other. Spring arrived with news that Victoria had been promoted again, requiring more travel between New York and London. After careful consideration, she proposed that the children return to England permanently, with extended visits to New York during school holidays. "Their roots are here," she acknowledged during a garden lunch at my home. "Their father, their school friends, you. I see that now." Nathaniel, who had grown more confident in Sarah's steadying presence, agreed readily. "They'll have both worlds," he said, "the stability of home and the excitement of New York." By summer, the children were settled back in Dorchester. Olivia, now 12, had developed an interest in fashion design inspired by her time in New York. Marcus, 10, had joined a local cricket team but still proudly wore his New York Yankees cap. On a warm July evening, as we celebrated my 70th birthday in the garden, I looked around at my family with profound gratitude. Victoria had flown in from New York, elegant as ever, but softer somehow, more present. Nathaniel and Sarah sat close together, their relationship having deepened into something meaningful. The children darted between the adults, belonging everywhere and to everyone. After cake had been served and presents opened, Nathaniel raised his glass. "To Mum," he said, "who taught us that true wealth has nothing to do with money. To second chances," Victoria added, "and the wisdom to recognize them." Later, as twilight fell and fairy lights twinkled in the apple trees, Olivia sat beside me on the garden bench. "Grandma," she said thoughtfully, "remember when you told me that the lottery ticket was yours? Were you ever going to take all the money away?" I smiled, putting my arm around her shoulders. "No, darling. The money was never what mattered to me. What mattered was helping your father remember what was truly important. Family," she said with certainty. "Yes," I agreed, watching as Marcus taught Victoria a complicated handshake, while Nathaniel and Sarah laughed nearby. "Family, however it looks, whatever shape it takes, that's the only wealth that truly counts." As stars appeared in the darkening sky, I thought of Terrence and how he would have loved this evening, this imperfect, beautiful family that had lost its way and found it again. The winning ticket had indeed been mine, but the real prize had nothing to do with millions of pounds. It was this moment, this gathering, these people, learning to love each other better, to forgive each other's failings, to celebrate each other's joys. In the end, that was the only jackpot worth winning. "We're lucky, aren't we?" Olivia whispered, following my gaze to her family scattered across the garden. "Yes," I said, squeezing her hand. "The luckiest people in the world."